Before you listen to this BBC podcast, I want to tell you why I love podcasting. Hi, my name's Tommy Dixon, and I make podcasts for the BBC. I'm a big fan of stories, always loved a good book. But when I started commuting for my first job, I discovered podcasts. I was blown away by how a creative idea and the right mixture of sounds could take you into a whole new world full of incredible stories. You know, the type that make you go, wow. And that kind of inspired me to give it a go myself, which, to cut a long story short, led to a BBC training scheme and a whole new career giving other people that exact same feeling. So if you want to hear amazing stories that make you go, wow, like I did, they're just a tap or a click away on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Nerves are absolutely starting to set in.
Hello, I'm Jane Lewis and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you up to speed on everything you need to know about the national game. It's Friday, the 23rd of February, and coming up.
Bly shot spilled, Yingy! The Australian opens the scoring.
And it's fallen for Tiffany again! And is that the goal that breaks Dingwall spirits?
It's a Dingwall ding-dong as the bottom two teams go head-to-head in a relegation dogfight. We'll hear from fans of both clubs. Also,
Forrest to fight it over. Shankman with the header! Hearts have the lead.
can high-flying Hearts upset table-toppers Rangers at Ibrox? And
now it's on the left-hand side, crossfield into the back post, it's once and he scored!
Will Celtic bounce back from last week's slip-up?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
Well, Mark Atkinson is the sports editor for The Scotsman. Ramsey Banks is a Ross County fan and host of the Staggy's View podcast. And Stuart Barry is a Livingston fan. They all join us on this episode of the podcast. Lots to get through with the guys. And before Ramsey and Stuart start knocking lumps out of each other, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. Raheem Sterling has described Joe Hart as top class, while the likes of Shay Given and Casper Schmeichel have also paid tribute to the Celtic keeper, who's announced he'll retire at the end of this season. In the SWPL, leaders Rangers and second place Celtic, who are currently separated by just 4 points, will meet each other in the first round of the post-split fixtures. Injury-ravished Dunfermline will have midfielder Matty Todd back in their squad as they travel to face Partick Thistle in a big game at both ends of the Championship table. That match is live on Sports Scene on BBC Scotland tonight from 7:30. And as we already knew it, John McGinn can do no wrong. Politicians have pledged not to close the council-run Dalmuir Golf Club near Clydebank after the Scotland midfielder joined a campaign to keep it open. Well, Stuart and Ramsey are champing at the bits. We will get to Ross County against Livingston shortly. But first of all, before that, let's quickly run through some of the other big fixtures this weekend. And Mark, let's start with Rangers against Hearts. They go to battle, if you like, at 3 o'clock on Saturday at Ibrox. It's going to be a huge test. Well, for both sides, really, isn't it? How do you see it going?
Yeah, really, really big match this. A huge test of Rangers' title credentials. They take on a team who match them for form, unbeaten in 12, most of them victories in the league, with the best striker in the league in Lawrence Shankland at the moment. They met not that long ago at Ibrox, and Hearts took the lead and ran Rangers really, really close. Rangers needed 2 goals in the last 5 minutes to win that game. So both teams have improved from that point. I think Hearts will go to Ibrox with very little fear. They're just playing so well, so confident. They know that third place is essentially theirs. And Stephen Naismith will now be challenging his players, look, go and prove yourselves against the country's top dog at the moment. But I just think Rangers at the moment, they've got that momentum. Ibrox will be bouncing because they're top of the league. And you would expect them just to squeak past Hearts, but it'll be a great match. Really interested to see how both teams get on.
Yeah, as you say, both teams in a really good run of form. Hearts, 12 games unbeaten, just that one draw in that run of results, as you say. Rangers, 9 wins on the bounce since the start of this year. How impressed, first of all, have you been with Hearts?
Really impressed with Hearts, Jane, just because of the way that they have kicked on from some really poor results in December. They lost to Aberdeen at the early part of that month, and Stephen Naismith called his team out for being bullied. Since then, they've not lost, and they kicked that run off by beating Celtic, their trip to Glasgow. They've just become a really well-drilled unit. They've grown together, but obviously when you've got someone like Lawrence Shankland, that talismanic figure in attack, they've got someone that can score goals out of nothing. They're clearly the third best team in this division right now.
Yeah, Lawrence Shankland, 18 league goals to his name, and in the last 5 games he's scored 7 goals. He is a player on form. Of course, he was linked with a move to Ibrox in January, wasn't he? What are you thinking? Is he going to go back there and show them what they potentially missed out on?
He's such a confident guy right now, Jane. You'll know yourself when you see him talk. He just oozes confidence. It wouldn't surprise me if he went and scored. He scored at Ibrox last time. I think if you're looking for anyone on that pitch to get your opening goal, it probably is Shankland. And yeah, Philippe Clement has already said he's an admirer of Shankland from his time in Belgium. And there's plenty of Rangers fans who would have liked to have seen him at the club. So yeah, it would suit the narrative, let's put it that way, if he was to score.
Yeah, it would suit the headline writers, wouldn't it? Certainly. Let's just quickly jump ahead to Sunday before we look back at the rest of the fixtures for tomorrow. Motherwell against Celtic. And if Rangers do win tomorrow at Ibrox against Hearts, this will be a real test of Celtic's mettle, won't it, on the Sunday?
Yeah, to be 5 points behind would be a real eye-opener for this squad. They've not had to deal with that for quite some time. They, on the face of it, they've probably got not a bad fixture against a Motherwell team that do appear to be struggling, although Motherwell have caused Celtic problems this season. I'm just looking forward to seeing how the Celtic team reacts to what happened last week, to the criticism and the fact that they now are the hunter, not the hunted. And I think that we'll find out a lot about Celtic on Sunday, how they can deal mentally with the situation they find themselves in.
Yeah, and from a Motherwell point of view, it looked like they were they were finding a little bit of form. They've kind of slipped up a little bit now. Stuart Kettlewell will hope that this is not the start of another slippery slope, won't he?
Yeah, for sure. They're not safe. I mean, they look at the table and go, they've got a bit of a cushion, but you look at their form and you also look at the teams behind them who are now starting to, well, some of them are starting to pick up results. And given the fixtures this weekend as well, given that 2 of the 3 beneath them play each other, somebody will make ground on Motherwell if they don't get results. Now, let's hope that Theo Bair keeps scoring goals, keeps taking them out of a hole. But there will be some worried Motherwell fans right now. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, feed the bear is the saying that a lot of people say around about Lanarkshire parts. Let's look at other games. And actually, I think when you look at all the fixtures on Saturday, Mark, there's not one where you don't really think, oh, I don't really care about the outcome of that one. They're pretty significant across the board, isn't there? Let's look at St Mirren against St Johnstone in Paisley. St Mirren, of course, looking to bounce back. That they've lost their last 2. St Johnstone, they want to refine that form that they found when Craig Levein first came in.
Yeah, St Mirren, this is a big game for St Mirren because they'll be expected to win. And because of the other games around them, I'm sure we'll touch on Hibs Dundee and Kilmarnock against Aberdeen. Teams around them are going to drop points. They really have to take advantage of this if they want to finish in the European spots and cement that top 6 place. I was at McDermott Park on Sunday, and while I'd never judge St Johnstone in a game against Rangers, they didn't look particularly strong in attack in particular. Their 2 strikers were pretty ineffective, and they'll look to bounce back. But look, Craig Levein, wily. It's the sort of game that Craig Levein will lick his lips and go, right, I'll go to Paisley and grind out a 1-0 win. Again, huge match, huge consequences at both ends of the table in that game.
You mentioned Hibs against Dundee. I suppose is the battle for the top 6. It heats up. Dundee going ever so well. They had a good win at the weekend. Sorry to bring that up, Ramsey. But Hibs, well, they could really do with getting a bit more of that positivity back within their squad, couldn't they? It's a big one for them, isn't it?
It is. Hibs haven't won in the league, and sorry to bring this up, Stuart, against Livingston way back at the start of December, which feels like a lifetime ago. They played quite well against Aberdeen on Saturday, but their familiar failings cost them. They cannot defend. They concede 1 to 2 goals almost every match, and they come up against a Dundee team who are playing really well. They've got goal threats, and I think Dundee will fancy it at Easter Road. Hibs cannot afford to lose that match. If they lose, they go 8 points behind Dundee, who are in 6th place. So yeah, it's now or never for Hibs, I feel. Yeah,
and another intriguing one at Rugby Park, Kilmarnock against Aberdeen. Of course, Neil Warnock still looking for his first league win as Aberdeen manager. Do you see him getting it at Rugby Park against a Killie side who are so good at the minute?
Never say never, but no, I don't see them beating Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock have beaten them twice this year, once in Ayrshire and once at Pittodrie. They're going really well under Derek McInnes. They've got a really settled team. They've got goal threats all over the place. Aberdeen, like Hibs, they can't defend either. Under Warnock, the defensive situations actually got worse. So yeah, I think again for Aberdeen, they really can't afford to lose this in their quest to make the top 6. But would you back them against Kilmarnock? I'm not so sure.
For all the latest on your Scottish Premiership club, including news, views, highlights, analysis and much more, the BBC's coverage is bigger and better than ever. Simply download the BBC Sport app or visit the website and sign up to notifications for your club. It ensures you'll have all the biggest stories and best content right at your fingertips.
Right then, let's get down to it. It's the moment that Ramsey and Stuart have been waiting for. Ross County against Livingston. The home team in 11th place on 19 points, but bottom side Livy are now just 3 points behind after last weekend's win over St Mirren and could draw level with the Staggies with a win on Saturday. Ramsey, how are you feeling going into this one? Are the nerves starting to kick in yet?
I think the nerves kicked in before we played Dundee about a week ago. The problem is we've got a manager in Don Cowie who is so popular. Everyone loves him. And we all hope that he's going to be a great manager for us. He's been assistant under, I think, 4 different managers now. The problem is his first game was against Rangers, and obviously no one expects him to get anything out of that. But the performance against Dundee was just about the same, if not worse, than we had under Derek Adams and Malky Mackay. So I think we're all hoping that, we've had a week between the Livingston game and the Dundee game. So hopefully he's had a chance to sort of have a bit of rest and sort of instill what he wants to instill in the team. But I can't stress enough that this is our biggest game of the season. When we played Livingston at Almond Vale the last time in the 2-2 draw, I thought we were absolutely robbing a win when we went 2-1 up in the 85th minute, and we still couldn't hold it. So I left that match terrified for the prospects of our season. So I think this game it's that important times about 10. So yeah, nerves are absolutely starting to set in.
Oh my goodness, Stuart, how do you feel listening to Ramsey there? I have to say, Ramsey doesn't sound overly confident. What about you? How are you feeling about this one? It's a big one, isn't it?
If you'd asked me a week or so ago, I would have been quite low in confidence, but it's amazing the difference a week makes. We beat Partick Thistle in the 195th minute or something, and then we win on Saturday, and just everything feels different. It feels like we've got a bit of momentum. It feels like the team are starting to gel. We've been unlucky in performances. I absolutely agree with Ramsey. We should have won that 2 each game. It was our own fault. Our fans wound up Simon Murray and he scored 2 goals, so we should stay off his back all day Saturday and be nice to him. But we feel like we've got a bit of momentum now. It's gelling. It's coming together. Our performances haven't been far away, but we've just managed to turn the corner. I think we're a wee bit more potent in attack and a bit less calamitous in defence.
You must have been a little bit worried when you were hearing the tone, if you like, of Dave Martindale, who's normally a pretty optimistic guy, but he almost was kind of throwing the towel in a couple of weeks ago. But do you sense a change in his demeanour and mood as well? Yeah, I mean, we're watching Davey every week. I think he's about to explode when he's on the touchline. I really fear for his sanity sometimes. He lives and breathes, he kicks every ball and he shouts at, everything. So it's actually good to see him getting a wee tiny bit happier with the wins. He's got great belief, and if there's one thing you can say about Davy Martindale, he wrote the book on resilience, given his backstory, and he's a very resilient character. And listening to him this week, the confidence that he seems to have about he's going for 10th, I think that hopefully will feed into the players that they can do it. We're only 3 points behind, and if we can stay in there, even in the split, who knows what could happen. Mark, as an independent bystander, how are you viewing this one?
I could sit on the fence and say draw, but I won't. I've got a feeling Livingston might go up there and get a result. I tell you why. I think Stuart made a really good point about David Martindale. And in this situation, you've got a really experienced manager in David Martindale up against somebody who is just cutting their management teeth. A lot of people in the game think that Don Cowie will become a very good coach. I think we'll have to see whether he's going to be a good manager. And this is a really, really big game for him and Ross County, a club that have flirted with relegation in the past couple of seasons. And when you keep doing that, eventually it gets you. Livingston have got a bit of momentum. And I think that win against Partick Thistle in particular, to come back from 2-0 down, it's a sort of season-defining or season-changing game that you get where it lifts the morale. So I think Livingston will avoid defeat. I've got a feeling they might go up there and just pinch it. And if they do, then you've got not just Ross County worrying, but the teams above them, such as St Johnstone and Motherwell, starting to worry. There'll be a lot of eyes on this game in Dingwall.
Ramsey, Mark mentioned Don Cowie there, and I think that the general feeling is that he probably will get the job on a full-time basis. Obviously, he's the interim manager at the minute. What's your feeling about him? Is he the right man for the job?
I know it sounds like a bit of a non-answer, but I hope so. The thing about Cowie is he's been assistant manager under 4 different managers now. You'd hope he's picked up, what to do, maybe under some of those what not to do. The problem about him getting the job now is that, and it's definitely not his fault, and it wasn't Kettlewell and Ferguson's fault, the point I'm about to make. When Stuart Kettlewell and Stephen Ferguson got the job as co-managers after Owen Coyle was sacked, it was almost too late. And that was the last managers we sort of promoted from within. You only hope that now it's not too late for Don Cowie to sort of turn it around and keep his up. We definitely are more in touch with the rest of the league than we were when we appointed Kettlewell and Stephen Ferguson. It's going to be very interesting to see what type of manager Cowie is. We know he's popular with the squad. We know he's good with people. He's well liked. He's been at the club since he was a child. It's crazy. Then he went off. He played for Scotland. He did all these amazing things. So I hope, more than I've hoped for quite a few things in County, that he does well.
Stuart, just a final one for you. I think David Martindale was quite pessimistic, wasn't he, when he was talking about bringing in players in January that would make a difference to the squad. He didn't think he would be able to do that. But in Tete Yengi, he looks to have brought someone in who could be fairly significant in terms of making a real change?
Absolutely. It's not just Tetty's performances. The boys around him are playing really well, and Big Joel's come on to a game the last few weeks as well. But at 6'5", we thought we were getting a target man. But he's not. He's a really good ball player. And it's the one thing that Livingston know well is big Australian strikers. We've got a wee bit of history there. And Tetty just seems to have developed into a cult hero just within a few weeks. He signed in January, did a couple of bit part performances, looked okay, but he probably just couldn't understand Davy shouting at him from the side of the turbines. But now he can translate into Scottish. He's doing really well. He's fast. He likes to go forward quickly. He's getting Big Joel's getting the best out of him as well. And Dan Mackay's seem to come on a bit of game. So from going from probably the worst attack, certainly the limpest attack in the league, I think there's a wee bit of potency there, and I think we can do okay. And just talking to Ramsey's point, we were actually disappointed Derek Adams isn't there, because I think that was a great motivator for us.
Oh dear, you're on the wind-up already, Stuart. Just a very, very quickly before I let you go, Mark's already said that he thinks that Livingston are going to win. Ramsey, a very quick prediction from you?
1-0 Ross County.
And Stuart?
I think we're going to win. We'd take a draw, but I think the momentum's with us.
Entirely predictable, but thank you very much indeed. Time to wrap things up for now. Many thanks to Mark, Ramsey and Stuart there for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Remember, Partick Thistle against Dunfermline is live on BBC Scotland this evening from 7:30. Sports Scene will have your highlights for you on Saturday, Sunday and Monday nights, and Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland will bring you all the live action across the weekend. Liam McLeod will be back with reaction and analysis of all the weekend's games on Monday morning. And remember, we publish new episodes every weekday bright and early, so if you haven't already done so, then please subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss out. That's it from us. As I say, thanks very much to the chaps for joining us. Thank you for listening as well. Enjoy your footballing weekend. Bye-bye.
The Scotland Rugby podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby.
There's a lot to be excited about.
Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are an absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound podcast. from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited.
It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.